John here, and back with another video, and this is for wildmanbeyond. He wanted me to talk about and share some ideas for a Rambo and Reacher crossover. Thank you again to Wildman for the request. Really interesting topic. You know, the character of Reacher I've recently got into because of you, Wildman. You know, I've really enjoyed the Amazon series, and I can't wait for season 2. You know, I checked out the first 2 Jack Reacher films for the first time, you know, not too long ago. And I've been reading this, The Killing Floor, which is the first book in the Jack Reacher series by Lee Child. And, you know, I've been going through the Audible as well, you know, kind of following along with the Audible. But, yeah, because of you, Wildman, I've gotten to this character. And, yeah, like I said, I can't wait for, you know, season 2 of the show. And, yeah, I got 25 more of these to go. But... yeah, the character of Reacher's badass, and the character of Rambo I'm a big fan of. I mean, you know, I love the first 4 movies. I did not care for Rambo 5. I thought it was a very mediocre and pointless sequel. I will give the film the last 10 minutes, you know, where Rambo's in the mines, and that's some good stuff, but that alone cannot save the movie. And I just thought it was a very unneeded film. You know, to me, Rambo 4 went out on a high note, and that to me is the ending. Again, you didn't need Rambo 5. You know, at that point, Sly, I love Sly, but even at that point, he's what, 73? You know, he's too old. Yeah, people said that, you know, when Rambo 4 came out, but you know what? Rambo 4 is a great movie. It was a great theater experience, and yeah, Sly may have been, what, you know, at the time, 61, 62, but that film, again, was great. And I thought it brought everything full circle. You know, Rambo 5, again, was just pointless. It was unneeded and mediocre and so much more. Whatever word you want to throw in there that, you know, is in that same category of mediocre, lackluster, flat, whatever. But, you know, so for this video here, I'm going to share a couple of ideas of what I would do, you know, if you crossed over Reacher and Rambo, because they're both, you know, drifter characters. They have a lot in common. Even Lucy agrees, right? Anyways. So a couple of ideas that I have is maybe, okay, let's say if you want to follow from the ending. I'm talking about Rambo. Can I talk about Rambo? But so let's follow from the ending of Rambo 5, where he's in his rocking chair on the porch, you know, after having these, you know, after having this big battle. And let's say, you know, there's a moment where Rambo goes into town. And, you know, along the way he meets Reacher, you know, maybe at a diner or something, and you can have sort of like, you know, First Blood and The Killing Floor if you mash both stories together, because, you know, in the First Blood, you know, Rambo's a bit of a drifter, comes into town, and he mixes up with the wrong people, or people, you know, that reject his kind, and, you know, like the character of Kiesel, Brian Dennehy's character. So maybe, you know, where Rambo and Reacher meet, you know, they get into a situation where, you know, they're both framed for something. They're both questioned, and they have to work together to solve a crime or solve, you know, this mystery. Both are drifters that have to work together, and maybe at first, you know, they don't get along, but, you know, throughout the adventure, throughout the story, you know, they have to work together and kick ass and what have you. So maybe, you know, that's one idea that you can go into, and like if in your own mind, you know, like if you had your own, you know, create your own fantasy about a crossover between these 2 characters. Again, you could sort of play it like if you had First Blood and The Killing Floor, take both plots and you kind of mash them together. You know, that's kind of what I would do, is maybe, again, have those 2 characters kind of caught in the same situation where they're both being questioned and framed, and The fingers are pointed at these two characters for, you know, being falsely accused. And they both have to work together to solve a mystery. So that's one aspect you can do. Maybe you can have one idea that I had, and I didn't write this out, but maybe you can have Rambo, you know, after the events of Rambo 5, you know, he can go revisit Hope, you know, where he'll meet Teasel again, and you know, maybe this time, you know, Rambo settles the differences with Teasel, but Reacher comes into town, and it's kind of like deja vu, where, you know, now Reacher is kind of in that Rambo spot of, you know, being looked at and funny, and he's a drifter, and they believe that, you know, Reacher did this one thing where he's accused of killing somebody, or so kind of a little bit of a killing floor, you know, the plot of that. But, you know, with this idea, you could have Teasel, you know, he's asking Rambo to track down this guy, track down Reacher, because, you know, he's in the area, and keep an eye on this guy. And maybe you can have some kind of one-on-one, you know, between Reacher and Rambo. So if you want to do like a one-on-one, you know, at some point, or, you know, do something like that, maybe. You know, maybe you can kind of take a page from The Hunted with Tom Lee Jones. And I don't know how that could work, but, you know, I haven't really thought that through, but, you know, maybe you can go into that direction a little bit, where maybe Reacher and Rambo are, you know, brought in to go after this guy that has lost it. You know, kind of like Benicio del Toro in The Hunted. And they can go track down this guy. You know, something like that. And, you know, I didn't write a whole bunch of ideas down, but, you know, maybe another one you could have where at the end of Rambo 5, you know, maybe Rambo goes into Texas. You know, he goes to a small town where he sees corruption happen, and he believes, you know, that Reacher's involved or something. And, you know, you can have Rambo do his own investigating Reacher, you know, trying to get close to Reacher, and that kind of leads to, again, a one-on-one. You know, maybe you can take a note or a page from one of the other Reacher books, One Shot, which I believe the first Jack Reacher film with Tom Cruise is based on the novel One Shot. You know, where Reacher is investigating these killings that were done by a sniper. So maybe you could do something like that. You know, plug Rambo in there, and have Reacher and Rambo work together to find the sniper. And along the way, you know, they have to face, you know, certain villains, and they get into certain fights, and it becomes sort of a buddy movie. Maybe, and that would be fun. You know, that would make for really fun and interesting ideas, because you would have Rambo in the city. You know, that's not his element, but you can put him in the city with Reacher, and so you have Rambo and his, you know, his past and stuff like that. But like, because I'm thinking about that, what would Rambo do in the city? You know, because it's not his environment. You know, he's kind of a fish out of water. But, you know, that would be interesting. And it doesn't have to be a city, but again, you can play with that. It could be any location, really. But yeah. Or maybe, okay, let's say this, you know, maybe you could put the sniper in the mountains somewhere. Yellowstone, maybe you know, Utah or something like that, in the middle of nowhere, or, you know, some location like that, where maybe you don't have to have it take place in a city, but as long as either you know, you could have Rambo and Reacher work together to, again, go after this sniper, this killer sniper. So, I mean, there's a couple of ideas, you know, and again, we can just, you know, you can play with it however you want, because it's only, you know, it's all about, you know, kind of making your own fantasy booking, if you will. You know, we're just fantasizing here. We're having a little fun with it. But yeah, those are a couple of ideas. But thank you to Wildman Beyond for the request. Thank you again. But yeah, I've really become a big fan of the Reacher character, and I'm a big fan of Rambo. So I think those two, whichever way you go, whichever story idea you go with, I mean, it's going to be interesting because they both, again, they're both drifters. They both have a past, um, and they're both they're a couple of guys you don't want to mess with. And again, we're just we're having fun here with this topic. Again, we're just coming up with some ideas and what have you. But again, thank you to Wildman for the request, and you guys have a good day.